All right, welcome back. So we are now at the phase where now we can start to talk about quantitative and qualitative data. So we've talked about the paradigm, the philosophical approach. We've talked about the fact that there are different methodologies that you can use, structures that you can use to approach a research question. And then now we're going to start to talk about quantitative, qualitative data. Okay, now we're going to start to talk about the data. So quantitative, qualitative. You may know a bit about this. Quantitative data essentially is going to be your numbers, your statistics, data gathering in the traditional sense of data gathering. It's data, it's numbers. Okay. Qualitative data is data that is more it's more subjective in nature. We're talking about words. We're talking about potentially videos. We're talking about different kinds of data that are more subjective, more on, they understand, as the word would say, qualitative, the quality of the experience. Okay, so we're not counting things necessarily. We are looking at the experience, the subjective, the description, the feelings of what's going on. Okay, and now we're moving more into, as we step back, into the interpretive side of things. Now, it's not to say that you couldn't use people's experience and their words and their understanding and their feeling as a quantitative measure. You could, and you can't. It's not to say that the qualitative data doesn't inform an experimental study. It can. Okay, but remember, those are back here on the spectrum as we move across, or not the spectrum, I'm sorry, but as in the decision-making process, you have the paradigm, the way of looking at the world around you, and then you have the research design. Okay, and so case study might have quantitative and qualitative, and in the past, I'd say decade and a half, really starting with in 2000 with some authors, Lincoln and Guba, that really probably started the mixed method approach. Maybe I'm giving them too much credit, but they would say that probably. But the mixed method approach is really has become very valid and popular in educational research. So you mix these things. You start to say, well, I'm going to have some data, and some hard numbers, and I'm going to have some experiential type subjective stuff. So we have a quantitative, qualitative mixed method approach, very popular now. Okay, so then you decide, okay, based on my question, okay, what's my question? Now, my question is influenced again by my paradigm, and my question will be influenced, how am I going to answer this based on my research structure, my research design, my methodology. Now I'm going to decide, how am I going to answer this? What kind of data do I need to answer this question? Okay, is it quantitative data? Do I need numbers, or do I need qualitative data? Do I need words? Do I need images? Maybe I need both to answer that. Okay, that's going to give a more well-rounded picture. Okay, now from there we get down into the data collection method. So if you're going to collect quantitative data, we're talking about descriptive statistics. You're going to find out about your students' performance on previous performance on exams. You're going to find out about their demographic data. You're going to find out number stuff. Okay, if it's qualitative, you're going to start to look at journaling. Now again, it's not to say that you can't turn the journal stuff into quantitative data. You can, but you're going to start to look at things in more of the, if you're in the qualitative side, journals. You're going to talk about, you're going to start looking at experiences of students, asking them questions, interviews, that's that sort of thing. Okay, and those are going to those will get you all the way down to the last level, which is the data collection methods. Am I going to use journals? Am I going to use questionnaires? Am I going to use surveys? Now, survey research is a completely different thing, so we want to be careful that we don't confuse survey research with asking questions. So I always try and use the term questionnaire. If you're going to ask them, from what side of the town do they live on, or how many books do they have in their room, or those kind of things, that's a questionnaire. It's different technically from a survey, so that's a different discussion. But I kind of geek out on this educational research stuff. So now you're going to get into the data collection methods. Now, tying this back to our course, we are going to go through a lot of these things with you as we design our action research study. And one of the things that an important concept that we'll get into later is triangulation. See, so you have a question, and you're not going to answer this only from one angle, okay? You're going to actually answer this from at least 3 angles. That's what we want you to do, is to triangulate that data so that I look at it from 1, 2, and 3 different perspectives to help me get a better understanding of this total overall thing. Okay, so you know, I know that's quick and dirty. It's just a few videos, and it's kind of you know, as I said before, we could do a whole educational research class on this where we dig into all these methods, and we're going to do a little bit of work in this class to help kind of give you some experience working with these things. But for now, I'm just going to sum it up and say that generally what I want you to understand is that we have a spectrum of approaches, philosophical approaches, and that philosophical approach will impact the research methodology that you choose, and that methodology will then help dictate and drive quantitative, qualitative, or mixed, the kind of data you need to answer the question. And then we get down into the data collection methods. That's kind of the lowest level. Okay, so I hope that this helped. I hope this kind of opened your eyes, broadened your experience a little bit to help you understand a little bit more about action research. I'm sorry, educational research. We are in an action research class, and that's where we're going to be going for the rest of the semester.